The lecture hall had become a place of scientific wonder and growing terror. Dr. Rodriguez walked to a special containment area that looked more like a high-security vault than a scientific display. The walls hummed with energy fields that could contain substances capable of destroying entire ecosystems. "Now," she announced, "we will show you the true limits of human digestive capabilities." Jae-hoon stepped forward again. He wore the same casual smile that had become both terrifying and fascinating to the alien students. Behind him, the other human volunteers looked equally relaxed, as if they were about to enjoy a simple lunch rather than interact with substances that could dissolve titanium. The first container looked impossible. It was a compound that seemed to shift between solid and liquid states. Holographic warnings surrounded it, displaying chemical formulas that made advanced scientists from 100 worlds look pale. "This substance," Dr. Rodriguez explained, "has a chemical structure that should chemically burn through any known organic or inorganic material. It would destroy advanced protective suits. It would melt through reinforced metal containers." Im-Su's recording device made a high-pitched sound. Her tentacle-like appendages wrapped so tightly around it that they turned a pale shade of green. Jae-hoon picked up the container. The alien students collectively stopped breathing. He opened it. The substance inside looked alive. It bubbled and shifted. Warning lights flashed around the containment area. Radiation sensors went crazy. Chemical analysis displays showed readings that should have been impossible. Jae-hoon drank it. Then he did something that broke every single biological rule in the known universe. He smiled. "Interesting," he said casually. "Needs hot sauce." The lecture hall went completely silent. The second container was even worse. A bacterial culture so lethal that it had been classified as a universal-level biological weapon. It could destroy the cellular structures of 300 different known species in milliseconds. Jae-hoon looked at it like someone examining a mildly interesting drink. He consumed it. The third container defied description. A substance with a pH level so extreme that it should have instantly destroyed any organic matter. It looked like something between a liquid and a living acid, capable of dissolving anything it touched. Jae-hoon drank it without hesitation. The holographic displays showed something impossible. His body was not just surviving. It was processing these deadly substances, breaking them down, extracting nutrients, turning potential destruction into fuel. Seok-min leaned over. "Reminds me of a weird street food I tried back home," he said casually. The alien students looked like they might faint. Dr. Rodriguez continued her explanation. "Humans evolved on a planet of constant change. Their digestive system is not just a processing system. It's a living chemical laboratory, a survival mechanism that turns potential threats into resources." Jae-won's iridescent skin flickered through colors of disbelief. Deep purples of confusion mixed with bright silvers of excitement. Hyun-ki leaned over. "Is this real?" he whispered to Jae-won. Im-Su's recording device made a strange sound, part mechanical sob, part whimper of disbelief. "Got anything more challenging?" Jae-hoon asked, looking almost bored. The alien students realized something fundamental had changed. Humans were not just another species. They were something else entirely, a biological marvel that defied every known scientific principle. Survival, for humans, was not just something they did. It was an art form, a science, a way of life that turned the impossible into the ordinary. And they were just getting started. The lecture hall buzzed with nervous energy. Students from across the galaxy leaned forward, their various sensory organs focused on Dr. Rodriguez as she prepared to dive deeper into the mysteries of human digestive capabilities. Im-Su's recording device hummed softly. Her species, the Tsilurans, had evolved to absorb nutrients through carefully controlled chemical interactions. The very idea of eating solid food was alien to her, yet here she was, watching humans defy every biological rule she had ever learned. "Let's break down what makes human digestion so unique," Dr. Rodriguez said, her fingers dancing across the holographic control panel. A new display appeared. It showed a complex diagram of a human digestive system, but unlike any biological chart the students had seen before. Colorful lines tracked potential pathways of nutrient absorption, chemical breakdown, and waste management. It looked less like a biological diagram and more like an advanced technological schematic. Hyun-Ki's 4 arms moved independently. One arm zoomed in on the display, another took notes, the third adjusted his translation device, and the fourth, seemingly of its own mind, appeared to be shaking slightly. Humans can digest substances that would kill most other species instantly, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Her voice was calm, almost matter-of-fact, as if discussing something as simple as the weather. The holographic display began to show a series of increasingly bizarre substances. 1. Extremely spicy peppers that could cause organ failure in most species. 2. Partially decomposed organic matter. 3. Combinations of chemicals that should not mix. 4. Foods with extreme feed levels. 5. Substances with radiation levels that would destroy cellular structures. J1 watched in disbelief. His iridescent skin flickered with colors that reflected his growing amazement. Deep purples of confusion mixed with bright silvers of excitement. Their gut bacteria, Dr. Rodriguez continued, are essentially living chemical processing plants. Where other species would need complex medical intervention, humans can neutralize toxins through their digestive system. A new image appeared. It showed a microscopic view of human gut bacteria. But these weren't just simple microorganisms. They looked like tiny, intelligent machines, breaking down complex molecules with surgical precision. Most species have very specific dietary requirements, she explained. Xylarans need precise chemical baths. Trilarians require specific mineral-rich liquids. Crevonians absorb nutrients through controlled photosynthetic processes. Humans, they eat, well, almost everything. The students exchanged glances. Some looked terrified. Others looked fascinated. A few looked like they might be sick. Yum-Su's tentacle-like appendages wrapped tightly around her data recorder. Her species had survived for millions of years by being extremely careful about what they absorbed. The idea of eating without constant chemical analysis seemed not just strange, but suicidal. Dr. Rodriguez zoomed in on one particular section of the diagram, observed the adaptability of their digestive enzymes. Where other species would require days or weeks of genetic modification to process a new food source, humans can adapt within hours. The holographic display showed a timeline. A human consuming an unknown substance, chemical breakdowns happening at impossible speeds, nutrients being extracted from what should have been undigestible material. Hyun-Ki leaned over to J1 and whispered, his translator converting his native language into standard galactic common. Is this a joke? How can one species be so resilient? J1 had no answer. His people, the Crevonians, prided themselves on biological adaptability. But this was something else entirely. Humans didn't just survive on their planet, Dr. Rodriguez said, her voice taking on a tone of almost reverent excitement. They conquered it. Their digestive system is proof of their most remarkable trait, the ability to turn nearly any challenge into an opportunity for survival. The lecture hall was silent. Students from 100 worlds sat stunned, their understanding of biology fundamentally challenged. Humans were not just another species. They were something more, a biological marvel that defied every known scientific principle. And this was just the beginning of the lesson. The lecture hall felt different now. What started as a scientific presentation had become something more, a complete breakdown of everything the alien students thought they knew about biology, survival, and life itself. Dr. Rodriguez moved to a large holographic display. Images began to appear, snapshots of human eating habits from across the galaxy. Each image told a story more bizarre than the last. Humans do not just survive, she explained. They adapt. They explore. They consume. The first image showed a human eating something that looked like a combination of metal shavings and a glowing liquid. According to the display, this was a traditional meal on a mining colony in the outer rim of the galaxy. The human looked happy, satisfied. Su's recording device zoomed in. Her tentacle-like appendages were trembling with a mixture of fear and fascination. Their gut bacteria, Dr. Rodriguez continued, are not just microorganisms. They are living chemical processing plants. Another image appeared, a human eating what looked like a rock. Not just any rock, a rock that contained trace amounts of radioactive material. The human was smiling and using what appeared to be hot sauce. Hyumki's 4 arms moved independently. One covered what passed for his mouth. Another took notes. The third adjusted his translation device. The fourth seemed to be trying to push away the holographic display. The presentation broke down human digestive capabilities into simple points. 1. Ability to extract nutrients from nearly impossible sources. 2. Gut bacteria that could neutralize toxic compounds. 3. Metabolism that could adapt to extreme nutritional conditions. 4. Survival instinct that turned potential threats into resources. Most species have very specific dietary requirements, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Xilurians need precise chemical baths. Trularians require specific mineral-rich liquids. Crivonians absorb nutrients through controlled photosynthetic processes. She paused, looking at the alien students. Humans, they eat almost everything. J1's iridescent skin flickered through colors of disbelief. Deep purples of confusion mixed with bright silvers of excitement. More images appeared, humans eating. Meals on space stations, local cuisine from different planets, substances that would kill most other species, foods with radiation levels that should destroy cellular structures. Each image told a story of survival, of adaptation, of turning the impossible into the ordinary. Evolution is not just about survival, Dr. Rodriguez said. It's about turning challenges into opportunities. Humans are the ultimate example of this principle. Su's research notes became a frantic scribble of impossible biological data. Her species had survived for millions of years by being extremely careful. The idea of eating without constant chemical analysis seemed not just strange, but suicidal. Hyumki leaned over to J1. "This cannot be real," he whispered. J1 had no answer. His people, the Crivonians, prided themselves on biological adaptability. But this was something else entirely. The final image was the most shocking. A human eating a substance that looked like it was part machine, part living tissue. The display showed the chemical breakdown happening in real time. The human's body was not just processing the substance, it was extracting nutrients, converting potential danger into fuel. Humans didn't just survive on their planet, Dr. Rodriguez said, her voice taking on a tone of almost reverent excitement. They conquered it. Their digestive system is proof of their most remarkable trait, the ability to turn nearly any challenge into an opportunity for survival. The lecture hall was silent. Students from 100 worlds sat stunned, their understanding of biology fundamentally challenged. Humans were not just another species. They were something more, a biological marvel that defied every known scientific principle. And this was just the beginning of the lesson. The lecture had changed something fundamental in the minds of the alien students. J1 sat completely still. His iridescent skin, which usually shifted colors with his emotions, remained frozen in a deep, complex purple. It was as if his body was trying to process information too massive to comprehend. Hyumki's 4 arms moved in strange, disconnected ways. One arm took notes. Another covered what passed for his mouth. The third adjusted his translation device. The fourth seemed to be shaking uncontrollably. Su's recording device made a soft, almost sad sound. Her tentacle-like appendages were wrapped around it so tightly they had turned a pale, almost transparent green. Dr. Rodriguez watched the students carefully. She knew what was happening. This was more than a scientific lecture. This was a complete reshaping of their understanding of life itself. Humans are not just a species, she said softly. They are a force of nature. The alien students looked broken. Everything they thought they knew about biology, survival, adaptation, it was all falling apart. Most species in the galaxy had very specific survival methods. Cravonians absorbed energy through controlled photosynthesis. Silurians used complex chemical interactions. Trilarians required specific mineral-rich liquids. Zorkians lived in controlled energy fields. Humans, they did something else entirely. They transformed. Holographic displays continued to show impossible images. Humans surviving in environments that should have killed them instantly, turning toxic substances into food, converting potential threats into resources. J1 leaned over to Hyunki. "Are you seeing this?" he whispered. Hyunki's translator seemed to be struggling. "I don't think my brain can process what I'm seeing," he responded. Dr. Rodriguez continued her explanation. Humans don't just survive, they reimagine survival itself. Where other species see limitations, humans see opportunities. More images appeared. Humans eating street food in crowded markets. Humans working in toxic industrial zones. Humans living on space stations. Humans exploring extreme environments. Each image told a story of adaptation beyond understanding. The psychological impact was enormous. These alien students were realizing something terrifying. Humans were not just another species in the galactic community. They were something more. A force of nature. A biological marvel that defied every known scientific principle. J1's mind raced. His people, the Cravonians, had always prided themselves on their adaptability. But this was something else entirely. Hyunki's 4 arms moved independently. Each arm seemed to be processing the information differently. One taking notes, one covering what passed for his mouth, one adjusting his translation device, one shaking with a mixture of fear and fascination. Su's recording device made a strange sound, part mechanical saw, part whimper of disbelief. Humans turn challenges into fuel, Dr. Rodriguez said. Where other species would die, humans would find a way to not just survive, but thrive. The alien students looked like they might faint. They were seeing something fundamental. Humans were not limited by their environment. They transformed their environment to suit their needs. Survival was not just something humans did. It was an art form, a science, a way of life that turned the impossible into the ordinary. And they were just getting started. The lecture hall was silent. Students from 100 worlds sat stunned, their understanding of biology, of life itself, fundamentally challenged. Humans were not just another species. They were something more. A biological marvel that defied everything the universe thought it knew about life. The lecture hall fell silent as Dr. Rodriguez walked to a sealed containment chamber at the side of the stage. Her movements were calm, almost casual, but the students could see a glint of excitement in her eyes. "Theory is good," she announced, "but demonstration is better." J1 felt his iridescent skin ripple with nervous energy. Hyunki's 4 arms moved unconsciously, 2 gripping the edges of his seat, while the others covered what passed for his mouth among Trilarians. 5 human volunteers entered the stage. They looked remarkably ordinary. No special protective gear. No medical support equipment. Just 5 humans in standard academy uniforms, standing as if they were about to do something as simple as taking a walk. Dr. Rodriguez began explaining the experiment. "We have prepared a series of substances that would be instantly fatal to 99% of known sentient species. Our volunteers will demonstrate human digestive capabilities." The containment chamber opened. Inside were containers of impossible substances, liquids that seemed to shimmer and change color, solid materials that looked like they were made of something between metal and living tissue, compounds that seemed to defy the basic rules of chemistry. Jae-hoon, a graduate student with a relaxed smile, stepped forward first. He was lean and looked somewhat unremarkable. Nothing about him suggested he was about to do something extraordinary. First test, Dr. Rodriguez announced, a chemical compound that would dissolve the internal organs of most known species within milliseconds of contact. The alien students leaned forward. Yun-Su's recording device nearly vibrated with tension. Her tentacle-like appendages wrapped around it so tightly they turned a shade lighter. Jae-hoon picked up the first container. It was a deep purple liquid that seemed to move in ways liquids shouldn't. It bubbled and shifted, looking almost alive. The container itself was made of a special material designed to contain substances too dangerous for normal storage. He opened the container. The alien students held their collective breath. Jae-hoon didn't just look at the liquid. He didn't hesitate. He drank it. More than that, he drank it and then asked, "Got any hot sauce? This could use some flavor." Silence. Complete and total silence. Hyun-Ki's translator seemed to short-circuit for a moment, unable to process what it had just heard. Jae-won's iridescent skin flickered through so many colors, so quickly it looked like a malfunctioning holographic display. Dr. Rodriguez smiled. "Observe the internal scanning," she said, bringing up a holographic display of Jae-hoon's internal systems. The display showed the impossible. The deadly chemical was being broken down, neutralized, converted into something harmless. More than that, it looked like Jae-hoon's body was extracting nutrients from the substance. The human digestive system, Dr. Rodriguez explained, is not just a food processing system. It's a living chemical laboratory. Seok-min, another human volunteer, leaned over and whispered to Jae-hoon, "Reminds me of this street food I tried in Bangkok." The alien students looked like they might faint. Dr. Rodriguez continued the demonstration. Each volunteer consumed a substance that would have killed any other known species instantly, a bacterial culture that should have eaten through living tissue, a chemical compound with a pH level that should have destroyed organic matter completely. They treated it like a casual lunch. Humans evolved on a planet of constant change, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Their digestive system is a result of millions of years of survival, adapting, overcoming. Where other species would die, humans would find a way to eat. Yun-Su's recording device made a strange sound, something between a whimper and a mechanical sob. Jae-won leaned over to Hyun-Ki. "Are you seeing this?" he whispered. Hyun-Ki's forearms were trembling. "I don't think I'm believing what I'm seeing," he responded. The demonstration was far from over, and the alien students were about to learn that this was just the beginning of understanding human biological capabilities. Survival was not just something humans did. For them, it was an art form. The morning light cascaded through the massive crystal windows of Sunspire Academy, casting prismatic rainbows across the lecture hall. Students from 100 different worlds shuffled into their seats, their bodies a kaleidoscope of shapes, colors, and textures that would have seemed impossible on any single planet. Jae-won adjusted his translator device, the small silver chip behind his ear flickering with soft blue light. His iridescent skin, a blend of deep purple and silver, shifted subtly as he moved, a natural camouflage mechanism from his homeworld of Kryver. Next to him sat Hyun-Ki, a Trilarian student with 4 arms carefully arranged around his data pad, each limb moving independently as he organized his notes. The lecture hall was a marvel of interstellar engineering. Gravity generators hummed softly, creating a comfortable environment for beings from worlds with vastly different gravitational pulls. Holographic displays hung in the air, ready to project information in multiple visual spectrums to accommodate the diverse sensory capabilities of the students. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked to the center of the stage. She was human, a species that had become legendary across the galaxy in the past century. Short and compact, with skin the color of toasted almonds and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once, she commanded attention without saying a word. "Xenobiology 407, she announced, her voice clear and strong. "Advanced digestive adaptations across sentient species. Several students shifted uncomfortably. Digestive systems were always a touchy subject in interstellar education. Most species had very specific dietary requirements. Some could only consume nutrients through photosynthesis. Others required complex chemical baths. A few needed to absorb energy directly from radiation sources. Humans, however, were different, and that was an understatement. J1 leaned forward, his curiosity overriding his natural caution. He had heard stories about humans, of course. Every student in the galaxy had. But stories were one thing. Scientific evidence was another. Dr. Rodriguez began her lecture with a holographic display that made several students gasp. The image showed a human eating what appeared to be a substance that would have dissolved the internal organs of most known species. The human was not just eating it. He was enjoying it. Humans, she said, represent the most adaptable digestive system in the known universe. Yun Su, a biochemistry student from the methane-rich world of Silora, started recording immediately. Her translation device worked overtime, capturing every nuance of the lecture. Her tentacle-like appendages wrapped around her data recorder, moving with nervous energy. The holographic display shifted. Now it showed a timeline of human dietary evolution. From primitive hunter-gatherers to space-traveling omnivores, the progression was remarkable. Humans had gone from struggling to find food to being able to digest substances that would kill most other life forms. Hyunki's 4 arms moved simultaneously, 2 taking notes, 1 adjusting his viewing angle, and 1 seemingly trembling with a mixture of fear and fascination. His species, the Trilarians, had a highly specialized diet. They could only consume specific mineral-rich liquids found on their home world. The idea of eating almost anything was beyond comprehension. Consider this, Dr. Rodriguez continued. Humans can extract nutrients from environments that would be considered uninhabitable by 99.7% of known sentient species. Their gut bacteria alone are a marvel of biological engineering. More images appeared. Humans eating street food in crowded markets. Humans consuming meals on space stations. Humans trying bizarre local cuisines from different planets. In each image, they looked happy, adventurous, almost playful. J1 noticed something else. In every image, humans seemed to be smiling. Not just eating to survive, but enjoying the very act of consumption. It was strange, alien, fascinating. The lecture was just beginning, but already the students of Sunspire Academy were learning that everything they knew about biology might need to be rewritten. And at the center of this scientific revolution was one species, humans. Dr. Rodriguez smiled. She knew what was coming next would change everything these students thought they understood about life, adaptation, and survival. The lecture hall had transformed. What started as a scientific presentation had become something more, a complete reshaping of biological understanding. Dr. Rodriguez dimmed the holographic displays. The violent, impossible images of human digestive capabilities faded, leaving behind a profound silence. "Let's discuss why," she said simply. J1 leaned forward. His iridescent skin, which had been flickering with colors of shock and excitement, now settled into a deep, attentive purple. Humans evolved on a planet of constant change. Dr. Rodriguez explained. Earth was not a stable environment. It was a world of extreme variations, harsh winters, scorching deserts, frozen mountains, humid jungles. Humans didn't just survive. They learned to adapt. The holographic display showed a timeline of human evolution. Primitive humans hunting, gathering food, moving across changing landscapes, facing challenges that would have destroyed most other species. Hyunki's 4 arms moved carefully. 1 took notes. Another adjusted his translation device. The 3rd seemed to be trying to process the information. The 4th covered what passed for his mouth. Most species develop specialized survival mechanisms, Dr. Rodriguez continued. The Crevonians photosynthesize. The Silurians used chemical absorption. The Trilarians have specific mineral intake requirements. She paused, looking at the alien students. Humans developed something different, a universal survival mechanism. The display changed. It showed the human digestive system in incredible detail. But it wasn't just a biological diagram. It looked more like an advanced chemical processing plant. Their gut bacteria are not just microorganisms, she explained. They are living chemical laboratories. Each human carries billions of these microorganisms. They can break down toxic substances, extract nutrients from impossible sources, adapt to new chemical environments in hours, convert potential threats into resources. Su's recording device made a soft, overwhelmed sound. Her tentacle-like appendages were wrapped so tightly around it that they had turned a pale shade of green. The implications were massive. Imagine, Dr. Rodriguez said, a species that can survive in environments that would kill most other life forms. A species that turns challenges into opportunities. A species that doesn't just adapt, but reimagines survival itself. More images appeared, humans living in deep-sea research stations, on space stations, in desert environments, in frozen Arctic regions, in toxic industrial zones. Each image told a story of adaptation, of turning the impossible into the ordinary. J1 whispered to Hyun-ki, "This is not just biology. This is something else." Hyun-ki's forearms trembled. "This breaks every scientific rule we know," he responded. Dr. Rodriguez wasn't finished. Consider the evolutionary advantage. Most species develop one or two specialized survival mechanisms. Humans developed a universal system, a way of processing and adapting that turns potential destruction into fuel. The holographic display showed a chemical breakdown happening in real time, a human body converting a toxic substance into nutrients, not just surviving, thriving. Humans didn't just survive on their planet, she said, her voice taking on a tone of reverent excitement. They conquered it. Their digestive system is proof of their most remarkable trait, the ability to turn nearly any challenge into an opportunity for survival. The lecture hall was silent. Students from 100 worlds sat stunned, their understanding of biology fundamentally challenged. Humans were not just another species. They were a biological marvel that defied every known scientific principle. Evolution, they were learning, was not just about survival. It was about transformation. And humans were the ultimate transformers. The lesson was far from over. And the alien students were about to learn that they had only seen the tip of the iceberg. The lecture was ending, but something fundamental had changed forever. Dr. Rodriguez stood at the front of the lecture hall. Her stance was calm. Her eyes were bright. She looked like someone who knew she had just changed everything these students understood about life. Humans are not just a species, she said. They are a biological revolution. The alien students sat in complete silence. Their worlds, their understanding, their entire scientific knowledge had been shattered in less than 2 hours. J1's iridescent skin no longer flickered. It had settled into a deep, complex purple, the color of total understanding mixed with total confusion. His people, the Crevonians, had always believed they were the most adaptable species in the galaxy. Now they knew better. Hyun-ki's 4 arms moved in slow, careful motions. One arm took final notes. Another adjusted his translation device. The third seemed to be trying to process impossible information. The fourth remained frozen in midair. Su's recording device made a soft, almost sad sound. Her tentacle-like appendages were wrapped around it so tightly they had turned nearly transparent. Dr. Rodriguez brought up a final holographic display. It showed the timeline of human evolution. But it was more than a simple scientific chart. It was a story of survival, of transformation. Most species adapt to their environment, she explained. Humans do something different. They make the environment adapt to them. The display showed impossible images. Humans surviving in toxic zones. Humans living on space stations. Humans exploring extreme environments. Humans turning potential threats into resources. Each image told a story beyond simple survival. Consider what we've demonstrated today, Dr. Rodriguez continued. A species that can extract nutrients from nearly impossible sources, neutralize toxic compounds, adapt to extreme nutritional conditions, transform challenges into opportunities. The alien students listened. Their understanding of biology, of life itself, was being rewritten. J1 leaned over to Hyum-Ki. "Do you understand what we're seeing?" he whispered. Hyum-Ki's translator made a strange sound. "I'm not sure anyone can truly understand this," he responded. Dr. Rodriguez wasn't finished. Humans didn't just survive on their planet. They conquered it. Their digestive system is proof of their most remarkable trait, the ability to turn nearly any challenge into an opportunity for survival. The lecture hall was silent. Students from 100 worlds sat stunned. Humans were more than a species. They were a biological marvel that defied every known scientific principle. "Some species adapt to their environment," Dr. Rodriguez said, her voice taking on a tone of almost reverent excitement. "Humans make the environment adapt to them." The final images were the most shocking. Humans living in environments that should have been impossible. Deep-sea research stations, toxic industrial zones, frozen Arctic regions, radioactive zones, extreme pressure environments. Each image told a story of transformation. Yum-Su's recording device made a final, overwhelmed sound, part mechanical saw, part whimper of disbelief. The lecture was ending, but something had changed forever. The alien students now understood something fundamental. Humans were not just another species in the galactic community. They were a force of nature, a biological revolution, a species that did not just survive. They conquered. Epilogue. Some species adapt to their environment. Humans make the environment adapt to them. Xenobiological research notes Species, human. Digestive capability, unprecedented. Threat level, existentially fascinating. Recommendation, further study required. The first test was just the beginning. Dr. Rodriguez walked to another sealed container. This one looked different, stronger, more dangerous. The containment field around it glowed with a warning color that most species recognized as absolute danger. "Our next demonstration," she announced, "involves a substance that should not exist in any digestible form." The alien students shifted in their seats. After what they had just witnessed, they were both terrified and fascinated. Jae-hoon stepped forward again. He looked relaxed, almost bored. His casual attitude made the alien students even more nervous. How could someone look so calm when about to interact with something so dangerous? Yum-Su's recording device made a soft, whimpering sound. Her tentacle-like appendages were wrapped so tightly around it that they had turned a pale shade of green. Jae-1's iridescent skin flickered between colors of fear and excitement, deep purples and bright silvers dancing across his body. The container held a substance that looked impossible. It was neither liquid nor solid. It shifted and moved in ways that seemed to break the basic rules of physics. Holographic warnings surrounded it, displaying chemical formulas that would make most advanced scientists run away. "This compound," Dr. Rodriguez explained, "has a molecular structure that should dissolve organic matter on contact. It contains elements that are toxic to 327 different known species. The chemical interaction should create a reaction that would instantly destroy any living tissue." Hyum-Ki's 4 arms moved independently. One covered what passed for his mouth. Another seemed to be trying to block the view. The third was taking frantic notes. The fourth was shaking uncontrollably. Jae-hoon picked up the container. The alien students collectively held their breath. He opened it. The substance inside seemed to pulse with a dangerous energy. It looked alive, hungry, waiting to destroy anything it touched. Jae-hoon didn't hesitate. He drank it. Then he did something that broke every single biological rule the alien students knew. He smiled. Interesting flavor, he said casually. Need salt. The lecture hall went completely silent. Dr. Rodriguez brought up the internal scanning display. The alien students watched in total shock as the impossible happened. The deadly substance was being broken down, neutralized, processed. More than that, Jae-hoon's body was extracting nutrients from it. Humans evolved on a planet of constant change, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Their digestive system is not just a processing system. It's a living chemical laboratory, a survival mechanism that turns potential threats into resources. Seok Min, another human volunteer, leaned over. Reminds me of this weird street food I tried in Seoul, he whispered to Jae-hoon. The alien students looked like they might faint. Jae-won leaned over to Hyun-ki. Are you seeing this? He whispered. Hyun-ki's translator seemed to be struggling. I don't think my brain can process what just happened, he responded. Eun-su's recording device made a strange sound, something between a mechanical sob and a whimper of disbelief. Dr. Rodriguez continued. Humans didn't just survive on their planet. They conquered it. Their digestive system is proof of their most remarkable trait, the ability to turn nearly any challenge into an opportunity for survival. The demonstration was far from over, and the alien students were about to learn that this was just the beginning of understanding human biological capabilities. Survival, for humans, was not just something they did. It was an art form, a science, a way of life that defied everything the universe thought it knew about living organisms. And they were just getting started.